Hello and welcome. Welcome to week 3. So I hope you have looked online and looked at your classmates' work, and I hope that you are as impressed as the advisors and I are. You're doing fantastic work, your projects are interesting, and you're doing a really good job of beginning to hone in on the body of literature you will be using. In this presentation, I'll go over a few things of relevance for this week, but also for the broader OMP project. Let's talk about what you'll be doing in the coming week. In the coming week, you will be reposting your problem statement and your research question to remind everybody of your focus, but then you'll be summarizing what you found in the literature using no more than 200 words. I want to talk to you about why I've designed this week's discussion forum in this way. In advising students in the lit review, what I found is that it's really easy to get lost in the weeds of the lit review and forget actually that what you're doing is finding that key information that will help your organization. Now, when you're doing a lit review, as we will talk about in the next Collaborate, you're not cherry picking only information you think will benefit your company. You're actually giving an overview of the relevant body of literature. However, that relevant body of literature should actually, in the end, be useful. So, for example, if you're doing a change management project, actually going deep into the change management literature and understanding the debates, the complexities, how all of this research from the business literature suggests that change can be led successfully will be useful to you. It won't be done simply for the sake of doing an academic exercise. However, all of us suffer from this. When we are in the literature, it is easy to sort of lose sight of why you are doing it. So my hope is that by explaining it to your classmates, by summarizing what you found, it will take you out of the weeds. It will encourage you to rise out of the weeds and think about, okay, if I were to explain what is useful and helpful to another business professional, here is what I'd say. You are also being asked to respond to your classmates' posts, and you'll notice that I've given fairly detailed instructions around how you might respond. However, I won't go into that because the instructions are fairly well laid out. Up until now, you've been getting feedback, quite a bit of feedback from your advisor in weeks 1 and 2. Now that we're moving on to week 3, most of the feedback will be coming from your peers. You will get feedback from your advisor when you submit your draft proposal. However, this post is really about you communicating your ideas to your peers. You will get probably some feedback from your advisor. However, it will not be extensive given that you will be submitting your draft proposal on Sunday and you will get feedback then. I want to talk to you about an issue that arises frequently among people doing their lit review, and that is distinguishing between what is actually literature that you want to include in the lit review and what is data that you are going to analyze. So the lit review is where you get an overview of the management concepts or theories that apply to your topic. So if I go back to an example that we spoke about at the last Collaborate, when I was working with a student working on Fraser Valley Transit, their question was, how can transit organization leaders prepare for the change associated with amalgamation? That all the transit organizations within the Fraser Valley want to amalgamate, but leaders are struggling with how that change will happen. So as I ran through in the last Collaborate, that person went into the business literature and looked at these change management models that they could then bring to bear on this topic. However, clearly this MBA student is not the first person to think about the Fraser Valley Transit amalgamation. And so there are a lot of reports like the one shown on the screen right now where experts and consultants have gone in and have already written about specifically what's going on in the Fraser Valley. Okay, the lit review is not about your organization. So in this student's lit review, they would have all the information about change. And they might have some academic articles or articles on change within public organizations or change within amalgamation or change within even transit systems. But it would be it would be generic information that could apply to many situations. That doesn't mean all the reports about the Fraser Valley transit system are not useful. They are absolutely useful, but they will be data that you will analyze. They will come later in the project. So, for example, you might be looking at that information later and saying, "Oh, I know all this theory about change. Now, using this document, like this report that I've depicted on the screen, I'm now able to understand better what's going on in transit in the Fraser Valley, and apply these models to this specific circumstance." So my main point here is that you might find a lot of good information about your topic. Let's say, for example, you're working for a Crown Corporation, and they have reports about what's going on with the Crown Corporation, kind of like with this Fraser Valley with this Fraser Valley example. You absolutely should value those articles, but save them. Those are not what go in your lit review. What go in your lit review are concepts and theories from the management literature that could be applied generically to a variety of circumstances. This is a bit confusing. There can be some gray lines here about what is in your lit review and what you will then use as data. And so please just don't hesitate to talk to your advisor if you want advice on this area. A word about advisors. Every advisor has their own approach and style. Advisors will be different from each other. You might talk to people in other advisor groups and hear that one advisor had more meetings, or one advisor gave more feedback, or one advisor communicates more diplomatically or in a more forward way than another. Every single advisor teaching this intake has experience seeing OMPs to completion, and they all have years of expertise. So for me as lead instructor, what I've encouraged advisors to do is to be true to their own approach and their own style. They will get you there in slightly different ways, but everybody has experience in how to support MBA students as they're completing their OM. Something that's important for you to know is that throughout 696A, you will be dealing with your advisor. However, when we get to 696B, and especially as you get to the end stages of the OMP, we will be also sending your OMP out for external review. So external review does many things. It gets another set of eyes on what is an intricate project, and it also ensures a certain quality standard. And so all advisors are advising with awareness of this external review process and awareness of the rubric associated with it that will be at the end of the process. So when we're giving you advice now, we're thinking about where you're at right now, and we're also thinking down the line, saying, okay, this is what will likely be the expectation of an external reviewer. So this is also to say that there is a sort of a consistency ultimately in how the OMPs are looked at. Now, I want to stress something. Even though each advisor will have their own style and their own approach and may do things differently, we as an advisor team are going to work our best to create a situation that's fair in terms of certain things, and the things that seem to matter. So for example, we will be consistent on late penalties, whether there are late penalties or not for a given assignment. For some of the pass-fail assignments, there will not be late penalties because you either pass or fail. But obviously for some of the interim graded assignments, late penalties will apply. We will also be looking at the ballpark averages of all of our ballpark averages, and we will, to ensure that it isn't that one advising group most people get an A, whereas in other groups everybody gets a B minus, right? And I'm using an extreme example, but what I'm saying is we're not going to be bell curving things, but we're going to be looking to see if whether we're all basically in the same ballpark, and we'll be comparing notes about how we assess. So what I'm trying to do is reassure you that there will be a fairness applied across the board, no matter which advisor group you're in. But on the other hand, your experience will be different because we're all different people. We're all deeply passionate about this work of advising OMPs, but we'll go about it slightly differently. If you are struggling with your advisor for whatever reason, the first course of action is, of course, to talk to your advisor, right? So try to resolve it, and we, of course, hope that that the relationship will be really not only amicable, but that it will be a great relationship. However, you know, problems do arise. This is a long and complex project, and so please talk to your advisor if you're experiencing challenges. If you cannot resolve them, you can do a few things. One is, if I am not your advisor, you can talk confidentially to me as lead instructor. If I am your advisor, you can talk to Charles Kruskop, who's the MBA program head, confidentially to Charles. So we are going to try to resolve things as much as we can, any issues that come up, because we will be working together for almost a year, right? Um, the last point is that advisors are advising many students. Please err on the side of over summarizing. You will get tired of restating your problem statement and research question. However, all of the advisors who are advising, or I think all of them, are working with students other than those in this intake. So, you know, each advisor in the, you know, in what you're seeing is your advisor working with 13 to 15 learners. However, they might have 40 learners that they're advising because of learners from past intakes as well. So please always summarize your project so that the advisor can sort of remember and get their head into where you're at. Also, it's sometimes a good idea if you meet with your advisor to afterwards type up the notes of what you understood and send it to them, so that there's clarity around, okay, this is what we discussed. Do we share the same understanding? So my overall point is that because your advisors are advising many students, you might have a conversation where you take something away from it, but the likely thing is they're going to be jumping on a call with someone else and they might not remember that point. So please take notes and help them stay abreast of your project when you meet with them or when you post about it. My final word would be, you're not behind. Everybody I speak to starts the meeting with, I feel like I'm behind. If you're posting in the forums, if you submit your draft proposal next Sunday, you are not behind. This is where you're supposed to be. This is an exploratory project, more so than other coursework you have done. There will be a point where your advisor says to you, okay, now you need to converge and get your sections down, but it's not yet. So you're doing great. Keep going, ask questions, and look forward to seeing you online.